My name is Lola Parker. I'm 28 years old, and at the time, I was working as a software developer in a mid-sized city. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. A good career, stable income, and a future I thought I was building with someone I trusted. But all of that shattered at a single-family dinner. It was supposed to be a celebration. My parents had invited my boyfriend Eric to join us after I'd received a small promotion at work. Nothing huge, but it meant better hours and recognition for the projects I'd been pouring myself into. My mom made lasagna my favorite, along with garlic bread and salad. Dad was already bragging about me, and my younger brother and his wife came too. It was warm, casual, the kind of evening that should have felt safe. Eric arrived late as usual, eyes glued to his phone. I told myself he was just busy with work, but a small part of me had already grown uneasy over how distracted he'd been lately. Still, I smiled, scooted my chair closer to make room, and tried to brush it off. We all sat down, passed plates, clinked glasses. My mom turned the conversation to me, beaming with pride. "Lola's always been dependable," she said warmly. "She works hard, she supports the people she loves. Honestly, Eric, we're so glad you're in her life. You two make such a great pair. When are we going to hear wedding bells?" Her tone was teasing, lighthearted, but Eric set down his fork, looked at my mother with a smirk, and dropped the words that carved themselves into my chest forever. "Don't worry, I won't be around long anyway. Lola's not wife material." The room went silent. The clinking of cutlery stopped midair. My mother's smile faltered like someone had slapped her. Dad's jaw tightened. My brother stared at Eric like he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear. Heat rose to my face. My chest tightened, and I felt every pair of eyes on me. But Eric... He leaned back casually in his chair, lips curled in a smug half-smile as though he'd just delivered a punchline. Mom stammered, her voice cracking. "Eric, what do you mean Lola is one of the most caring, dependable people I've ever known? She would make any man lucky." Eric gave a short, dismissive laugh and shook his head. "Sure, she's sweet, reliable. But wife material, I need someone ambitious, someone who doesn't just settle into the same routine every day. Lola's comfortable, safe. That's not what I want anymore." Then he twisted the knife. "There's someone else, Sophie, from work. She gets me in a way Lola never did. She's driven, exciting, spontaneous. She matches my energy." The air went out of the room. My mother's eyes filled with tears. My dad's hand gripped his napkin so tightly I thought it might tear. My brother muttered, "What the hell is wrong with you?" under his breath. I sat frozen. Betrayal burned through me, humiliation heavy in my throat. I had poured 3 years of my life into Eric, supporting him when he struggled, sacrificing opportunities to stay by his side, and he was discarding me in front of my entire family, like I was nothing more than an afterthought. But I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. Instead, I set my fork down, gently wiped my mouth with my napkin, and said quietly but firmly, "Okay, that's it. Just okay." The silence that followed was deafening. Eric blinked, as if he'd expected me to break down or lash out. Instead, I stood, gathered my plate almost by instinct, and carried it into the kitchen. My hands shook, but my face remained calm. That night, in the warm glow of my family's dining room, with the smell of garlic bread still hanging in the air, Eric didn't just break my heart, he humiliated me, stripped away the illusion I had been holding on to. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I saw him clearly. People say hindsight is 20/20. Looking back, I can trace the threads of what went wrong. But at the time, I thought Eric and I were solid. We met at a friend's barbecue. He was 27, tall, easy smile, the kind of guy who could light up a group conversation. I was drawn to his energy. He liked that I listened, really listened when he spoke. What started as casual chats over burgers and beers turned into long walks, shared playlists, late-night calls, where we'd talk until the sun hinted at the horizon. Eric was chasing big dreams. He wanted to climb the ladder fast, make a name for himself. At the time, I admired that fire. He admired my steadiness. I wasn't the type for grand gestures, but I was reliable. If he called in the middle of the night panicking about work, I'd be there. If he hit a rough patch financially, I covered his rent for 2 months without hesitation. "We'll get through this together," I told him, and I meant it. When my company offered me a promotion that required relocating, Eric looked stricken. "I can't move right now," he said. "I need to stay here for networking. For Sophie, she's connecting me to potential clients." At the time, Sophie was just a name, a colleague he respected. I didn't think twice. I turned down the offer, told myself another opportunity would come. What mattered was that Eric needed me by his side. For the first year, it felt worth it. There were moments I'll never forget, like the weekend trip I planned to a cabin upstate. Just us a bonfire under the stars, the crackle of wood, and the smell of pine. I pulled out a simple silver ring, not an engagement ring, but a promise. Eric, I said, heart pounding, I see a future with you kids, a house, the whole messy, beautiful thing. His eyes watered. He kissed me and said yes, he saw it too. That night I thought we'd built something unshakable. But over time, small cracks appeared. Eric would scroll through his phone during our dates, lingering on posts from colleagues who flaunted their vacations, their designer clothes, their big moves. He'd sigh and say things like, "Why don't we travel more? Life's too short to be stuck in one place." It stung, but I brushed it off, thinking he was just stressed. Then came the comparisons. My buddy's girlfriend surprised him with concert tickets. She just gets it, the spontaneity. That's the kind of energy I crave. I tried to keep up, planned more dates, surprised him with little gifts, brought home his favorite takeout after long days. But the more I gave, the more it felt like I was chasing a moving target. He started canceling our plans last minute. "I need me time," he'd say, only for me to find out later he'd been out with coworkers, always including Sophie. She drove a leased BMW, posted photos of champagne toasts weekends in Miami. Eric would scroll her feed with this hungry look, like he wanted that life more than the one we had. At night, lying awake beside him, I started asking myself questions I'd never considered before. Am I boring? Is stability a flaw? I had built my entire identity around being reliable, dependable, safe. And suddenly the man I loved made me feel like that wasn't enough. I told myself it was a phase, that he was just restless, but deep down a seed of doubt had been planted, and it was only a matter of time before it grew into something poisonous. The night after that dinner, the silence in my apartment was deafening. I replayed Eric's words in my head on a loop. Lola's not wife material. The smirk on his face. The way he said Sophie's name like she was already wearing a crown in his future. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's tears, my father's clenched jaw, my brother's disbelief, and me sitting there small and humiliated at my own celebration. When I finally dropped Eric off at his place that night, he leaned against the car door, arms crossed, daring me to react. "So that's it?" he asked. "You're not even going to fight for us?" I kept my eyes on the road, voice steady, though my hands trembled against the wheel. "What's there to fight for? You've already made your choice." He scoffed, shaking his head. "God, Lola, this is exactly what I mean. No passion, no fire. Sophie would have never let me walk away this easily." That last line stung more than I wanted to admit, but I forced my tone flat. "I heard you. We're done." When he slammed the door and walked inside without a glance back, I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. I should have cried, but there were no tears left. Just a hollow ache and a strange, unexpected clarity. The next morning, I made a decision. I blocked his number, deleted him from social media, packed away the photos, the ring from that cabin trip, the sweatshirt he'd left at my place. No dramatic speeches, no second chances, just silence. People think heartbreak comes in waves of screaming, sobbing, begging. Mine came quietly, like standing in a burned-out house staring at the ashes, realizing there's nothing left to save. But that quiet didn't mean it didn't hurt. Nights dragged on, haunted by flashbacks, Eric, kissing my forehead when I covered his rent, whispering promises under the stars, laughing with my family at Christmas. Each memory sliced at me, reminding me how deeply I'd intertwined my life with his. For weeks, I moved on autopilot. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why I wasn't enough, why being dependable, loyal, and steady could be turned into a flaw. Sometimes I'd catch myself scrolling through old pictures, thumb hovering over the unblock button on my phone. But I never pressed it, because deep down I knew if I let him back in, I'd lose myself completely. One night, lying on my couch with the city lights bleeding through the blinds, I whispered to myself, "No chasing, no fighting. He's gone. I walk away." That became my mantra. And slowly that silence that once suffocated me began to feel like space. Space to breathe. Space to rebuild. Little did I know, while I was learning to live without him, Eric's new better life with Sophie was already starting to crack. The weeks after Eric were the hardest, but also the most important. At first, the silence of my apartment was unbearable. No late-night calls, no text notifications, no messy shoes kicked off at my door. Just me, the hum of the refrigerator, and my own thoughts echoing louder than I wanted. So I started filling the silence. I signed up for a gym membership, something I'd been too busy for during the relationship. The first few weeks were brutal. I was out of shape, lungs, burning muscles, aching. But every time I ran another half mile or lifted just a little heavier, it felt like I was shedding another layer of him. I joined a local hiking group too, the same one I'd once skipped because Eric thought weekends should be couple time. At first I felt out of place, strangers with their inside jokes, their gear, their confidence. But slowly I found myself laughing with them, swapping stories, building new memories that had nothing to do with him. Therapy helped as well. My therapist sat across from me, calm, steady, asking questions I'd avoided. Why did you ignore the red flags? What made you believe sacrifice was the same as love? For the first time, I admitted things out loud, how I'd turned down opportunities for him, how I'd swallowed my discomfort whenever he praised Sophie, how I convinced myself reliability was enough to make someone stay. Healing wasn't glamorous. Some nights, I still cried. Some mornings, I still woke up with that ache in my chest. But there was progress, slow, steady, like learning to walk again after an injury. Meanwhile, whispers about Eric trickled in through mutual friends. I didn't go looking. I had him blocked everywhere. But word has a way of traveling. At first, they looked perfect together, one friend told me over coffee. Trips, fancy dinners, the whole Instagram show. But cracks soon appeared. Sophie wasn't the dream he thought. She nitpicked his posts, told him what to wear, controlled his schedule. Friends mentioned fights, her voice sharp in restaurants, his eyes hollow at gatherings. Then came the rumors of her cheating. Other guys from her office. Late-night networking events. Eric tried to keep up the facade online, but in real life, his energy dimmed. I listened quietly whenever someone brought it up, nodding, sipping my coffee. I didn't gloat. I didn't feed the gossip. But deep inside, I couldn't ignore the quiet satisfaction that came with knowing the house of cards he'd built was starting to collapse. He called me safe, boring, not wife material, but the chaos he'd chosen instead was already tearing him apart. And while his world was unraveling, mine slowly, painfully, stubbornly was starting to rebuild itself. 4 months after the dinner, I was sitting in my favorite cafe laptop open, halfway through debugging a piece of code when an old friend slid into the seat across from me. "You're not going to believe this," she whispered, eyes wide. "Eric's life is a mess." I froze for a moment, then forced a neutral smile. I'm not really keeping track. She leaned in anyway. Well, it's hard not to hear about it. He and Sophie disaster. She's been cheating on him, with 2 guys from her office. Someone caught them screaming at each other in a bar last weekend. She called him pathetic, he called her trash. People recorded it. I nodded slowly, sipping my coffee. My chest tightened, not from hurt, but from something stranger. Not joy, not pity, just clarity. The man who once humiliated me in front of my family was now being humiliated in public by the very person he thought was his upgrade. The stories only grew worse. Sophie posted shady captions on social media implying Eric was controlling. Eric fired back with cryptic posts of his own. Screenshots of their arguments leaked through mutual acquaintances, her calling him a deadweight, him accusing her of using him for clout. Then came the real blow. HR at their office got involved after Sophie accused him of harassment. Whether it was true or not, I didn't know, but the fallout was brutal. Eric's image at work shattered, and within weeks he was let go. No job, no Sophie, no shiny lifestyle. Meanwhile, his reputation with friends tanked. People who once envied his new life now rolled their eyes when his name came up. He's drama, someone said at a hiking meetup. Always was. I didn't ask for updates, but they found me anyway. And then one evening, my phone rang with a number I recognized instantly, his mother's. I almost didn't answer. Curiosity won. "Lola," she said, her voice trembling. "We need to talk about Eric." I stayed quiet, waiting. "He's not doing well. Sophie ruined him. He's broke drinking too much, and he misses you. He keeps saying he made a mistake. We know he treated you terribly, and I'm so sorry. We should have seen how good you were for him." Her words cracked something inside me. Not longing, not forgiveness, just a reminder of how much I'd given and how little it had mattered to him until it was gone. "Mrs. Collins," I said softly, "I appreciate your concern, but Eric's choices are his own." There was silence on the line, then a sigh. "I understand. I wish he'd realized sooner." When I hung up, I stared at my phone for a long time. Once I would have bent over backward for Eric, for his comfort, his future, his family. Now I felt nothing but distance. His downfall wasn't my victory. It was just justice. And as his world collapsed, mine continued to grow sturdier, steadier, more my own. By the 7th month, Eric had gone from silent to relentless. It started with a text from an unknown number. Lola, it's me. Can we talk? I miss our chats. I deleted it. The next day, another I know I hurt you. Sophie was a mistake. Please just coffee. I ignored it again. Then came the calls. Voicemails that started tearful evolved into manipulative and sometimes turned bitter. Lola, you were the only one who ever understood me. I threw that away and I hate myself for it. The next day, you can't just pretend what we had wasn't real. Stop being so cold. And another God, you're pathetic. No wonder Sophie thought I deserved better. The whiplash was exhausting, but I never once responded. Until one evening at the gym. I was halfway through a set of squats when I saw him. Standing near the entrance, thinner than before, dark circles under his eyes, clutching a water bottle like a lifeline. Lola, he called softly, approaching. I set the bar back on the rack, wiped sweat from my face, and forced my voice even. What do you want? He looked at me, eyes pleading. 5 minutes, please, just 5. Against my better judgment, I let him speak. I was scared, he said, words tumbling out. You were so safe, so steady, it felt like a trap. Sophie, she was chaos. I thought that was excitement, but she destroyed me. You were home. I see that now. Let's start over. I stared at him, remembering every sacrifice, every moment he made me feel like I wasn't enough. And then I remembered my mother's tears at that dinner. You said I wasn't wife material, I said quietly, in front of my family. His face flushed. That was stupid. I was trying to push you away because I was scared. Look at me now, alone, broke. Everyone's turned against me. You win, Lola. Just come back. That word win was like poison, as if this were some game and my worth was proven only by his downfall. I shook my head, grabbed my gym bag, and walked away. His voice cracked behind me. You're heartless. You think you're better than me. But I didn't turn back. The messages kept coming. His best friend ambushed me at a cafe. Lola, he cries every night. Give him another chance. His mother called again, guilt dripping from her voice. Don't throw away 3 years over one mistake. He needs you. But I was done being cast as his safety net. The more desperate he became, the clearer I saw he didn't want me. He wanted the stability I gave him. The stability he once called boring. And I would never let him take it from me again. 10 months after that dinner, I almost didn't go to the wedding. It was for an old mutual friend, and I worried Eric might be there. The thought of another scene, another round of humiliation, made me hesitate. But something inside me whispered, you've earned the right to show up for yourself. So I went. The venue was a garden strung with lights, laughter bubbling in the air. I wore a navy dress, simple but elegant, and beside me was Daniel, my new boyfriend. A graphic designer, grounded funny, in a quiet way, ambitious, without being flashy. He held my hand gently but firmly, as though he knew exactly what this night might bring. And of course he was there. I spotted Eric across the courtyard, slouched in a chair, suit rumpled eyes darting nervously around the room. He looked smaller than I remembered, shrunken, like someone had deflated all that arrogance he once carried. He noticed me almost immediately. His gaze locked onto Daniel's hand around mine, then back to my face, and before I could turn away, he was standing in front of me. Lola, he said, voice low, urgent. You look amazing. His eyes flicked to Daniel. Can we talk privately? Daniel gave my hand a squeeze, offering silent strength. I didn't move. This isn't the time, I said firmly. Eric ignored that, leaning closer. I realize now you were the one. Sophie destroyed me, but it woke me up. I want us back. Please. His words tumbled out, desperate, heavy with need. For a moment I saw him as he was not a villain, not even a partner, just a man clinging to the last thing he thought could save him. But I wasn't his lifeline anymore. I shook my head. Eric, that chapter's closed. I've built something real, my career, my peace, my life. And Daniel is part of that now. You're not. His face twisted, half grief, half anger. So that's it. You replaced me already, after everything we had. I met his eyes, calm, steady. You replaced yourself the night you humiliated me in front of my family. I just finally believed you. Gasps and whispers rose around us. I didn't care. I turned Daniel's hand warm in mine and walked away. Behind me I heard nothing. No footsteps, no pleading. Just silence. Later that night, under the string lights, Daniel spun me into laughter on the dance floor. Friends cheered, music swelled, and for the first time in years, I felt light, free. Eric slipped out early, humiliated. No one rushed after him. And me, I didn't look back. Because for once, my story wasn't about being dependable for someone else, it was about being strong for myself.